Howdy, y'all. Caleb here. Got back from this past weekend at the GW US Open in Austin, Texas, and it was a blast. We had 120 Age of Sigmar players showing up for this tournament. Gigantic hall, tons of tables, lots of dice being rolled. It was a ton of fun. So I'm gonna quickly try to go through all my games. We're gonna take a look at my list, and then maybe tomorrow we'll take a look at all the Seraphon lists. But let's focus on my games that I had this weekend. Um, I ended up let's just jump right to it. I ended up in 13th place. I had 4 wins, 1 loss, and 13th place out of 120 people. Hey, I'm perfectly happy with that. Getting 4-1 is awesome. That was a lot of fun. The way they scored the rankings is kind of by bracket: 5-0, 4-1, 3-2 on down, and then inside each of your bracket, it was actually based on battle tactics. Was the first tie break, and then the second one would be your victory points. I had a lot of victory points, but I missed a couple battle tactics, so that kind of bumped me down the list of the 4-1 fellas that made it up here. So if I had gotten a few more battle tactics, then I probably would have gotten a little bit higher. But I'm happy with coming in 13th out of 130. They had they had an overall ranking, which, to be honest, I don't know exactly what this entails. I'm not sure if they explained it somewhere, but I think it includes like all your victory points and then like the soft scores, painting, and I have no idea what else. Somehow I'm third on that list. Again, I don't know what the overall ranking entails, but I like that one better. So 4-1 was a lot of fun. Let's take a look at my list here. And I did take Seraphon, of course. Thunderlizard is going to be the list, and Beastmaster. So I'm trying to keep all my beasts alive. Didn't worry about a triumph because I had exactly 2,000 points. My leader was a Slon, and I made him my general. And I did that on purpose to kind of shift up my list a little bit. I wanted to focus, have a little bit more balanced list. And so putting my Slon as my general, I can give him the command trait. I can get out of the Prime Warbeast command trait, which is a great command trait for Thunderlizards. But I really wanted this Arcane Might. And to give me that, it would give me a reroll to my casts and unbinds, 1 per each phase, my phase, your phase. And so that really helps me, keep from miscasting but also if I really need to get that Comet's Call off, if I really need to get a Mystic Shield off, or if you're bringing in some heavy magic to me that I really need to shut down, then this kind of allows me to do that. I'll be at +2 usually for my casting, and then I've got a reroll. That makes him quite powerful. I'm taking the spell Stellar Tempest. That just kind of helps me against any hordes that I might face. It's long range, so it's a pretty good one to take turn 1, and then you can switch out of it pretty quickly if you don't have any hordes. My Engine of the Gods is in this list. Artifact, the Fusila Conflagration, gave that to the Engine. That's the required artifact for Thunderlizards. Mount trait, Beastmaster, so I can give the Engine either run and shoot and charge, or Savage for +1 to its attacks once per game. This turns out to be pretty situational, but pretty useful. And the universal prayer scripture for that Engine of the Gods priest is going to be Curse. And you'll see this a lot on the Engine of the Gods. And it's a fantastic pick for that. It's kind of a reactive pick. Somebody charges you on your turn is how I ended up using this mostly. That Curse is going to go off on a 3-up because you're probably by some terrain in your territory, which in Coalesce is giving you Mystical, so +1 to your prayers. So that Curse is going off on a 3-up usually. And then you can slap back with a bunch of other stuff and do mortals on hits of 6. So I love that prayer. Went off multiple times in this tournament to great use. Skink Priest is a support hero, and he's taken the prayer scripture Heal. That Skink Priest is there to buff my Basildons, as you'll see below. I am taking an ally, Gotrek. I did take Gotrek this tournament. I had just enough points with what I needed here, and he really fills a key spot that it's hard to replace sometimes. He's almost unkillable. Now, he can be killed with certain things, but it is very hard to kill him, and he can put out a ton of damage. Now, he's slow, but you can get some shenanigans to get him in there, like redeploys and making long charges, things of that nature. Pile-ins, strategic pile-ins. You can end up getting him across the board as needed. Um, and we'll look at how well he did for me here in a minute. My battle line, I did take 2 units of 5 Source Knights. Those are my screens. I really like them as screens. They can spread out pretty wide. With just 2 units, you can cover a lot of the board in screens. Usually, if you got a couple choice terrain features, you can cover the majority of the board with these Knights. I also took 1 Stegodon as a battle line with the Skystreak Bow for those 3 damage shots, and gives me a monster to do a couple things, which will be useful. And 2 Bastildons as my behemoths. And those guys are great at Thunderlizards. You can buff them up with the Skink Priest for +1 to hit until your next hero phase, and then you can buff the other one in the shooting phase to give him +1 to hit. So you're going to have 2 Bastildons on +1 to hits, and you're going to double fire one of them. It takes some command points, but usually in this list you have quite a few command points going for you. I fit everything except the Bastildon into a battle regiment, so I am 2 drops. That's kind of what I was aiming for here. Is I wanted to go low drops to make sure that I can screen my side, force you to go first, and then I can react and hopefully double turn you. But it gives me a good chance to either get my Gotrek closer to you because you've already taken 1 turn, and I'll be able to shoot you a bunch with the Bastildons. So I have a good threat on the board with Gotrek. Followed up with some great shooting threats with my Bastildon and Stegodon. I'm controlling the magic phase with the Slann, and I've got some good buffs to hand out. And then kind of as my secondary melee ability is the engine coming in with Beastmaster and Curse, and the engine will kind of will mop up what's left. I have a little bit of summoning. I did bring quite a few warriors just in case I got some summoning. I got a few summonings, I think maybe 3 this tournament. And so it's always good to have some extra warriors on hand for that case. So that's my list for this tournament. It did well, 4-1. Quite happy with that. Let's look at what Gotrek did in this tournament. So I did a quick tally of his kill points, and we killed 2 Ironclads plus some of the support heroes that were in there. We killed a couple Brims. It was, I think, 10 to 15 Brims. I can't exactly remember on that one. I don't know the points on those. He got 2 Megas. Yes, that's always fun. He got 10 Orc Brutes, which actually slapped him back pretty hard. We'll look at that later. 10 Hex Wraiths, a Black Coach, and then basically all the Nighthaunt heroes in that list. So he was able to do some pile-ins and charges and clean up all the support heroes. But for a total, Gotrek's kill count over 5 games was 3,350 points, plus a few points in Brims and support heroes for the KO. So he definitely pulled his weight this tournament. That's not always the case. Sometimes he's just going to be a piece that you're gonna make them avoid that area on the board. But sometimes you can hold stuff up, get those charges in, and he can really do some damage. So I had a blast with Gotrek this turn. He really made up his points. So we'll take a look at some of the games now. On to game 1. Let's look at game 1. Game 1, I'm playing against James Bowers. And James, let's take a look at his list. He is playing Caradron Overlords. And we'll take a look at some of these things. I don't know everything about KO, but he does have a Gotrek in his list as well. And so we're going to have a Gotrek versus Gotrek fight. He had an Aether Chemist as his general with Collector and Spell in a Bottle, which you know what spell's going in that bottle. That's right, Lightning, the Warp Lightning from Skaven. He's also got an Aetheric Navigator with that artifact there. A couple units of Arcanite Companies, just as his bodies and his battle line. And then 2 big old giant Ironclads. You can see what they've got there. They've got the volley guns for lots of attacks. And then, of course, the Endless Spell, Warp Lightning Vortex to go in that. He does have 2 battalions, but that causes him to be higher drop than me. So you can see our first off, on our game type, we're playing Veins of Gur, which means there's no objectives on the map yet. Turn 2, the one in the middle come down. Turn 3, the one on each of our sides will come down. And so you don't exactly know where the battle is going to play out, and it's usually either on one side or the other, but it can be pretty spread out. So you can see our deployment here. And the way I'm kind of setting up here is I've got to spread out. I don't want that Warp Lightning Cannon to hit me if he ends up getting that off into my lines if he can get over there and pop that thing off. So I'm spreading out a little bit more than I really wanted to. I'm trying to screen him out. I'm putting a screen just all the way to the board here. We've got some terrain that's going to kind of block some stuff from getting into me. I've got Gotrek in the middle with my important pieces still. He's kind of the screen there, and then a unit of Source Knights over here. I did make sure that, if he charges over here, then I can overwatch. If he charges basically any of these screens, I can overwatch. So I'm trying to be mindful of where I'm putting my Bastiladon to where I can shoot in that first turn, use a command point. It's not going to be great shots because I don't have the Bastiladon buffed up yet, but at least I'll have that ability to do so. You can see his Gotrek is here in the middle with some Arcanaut Company, and then his 2 big old Ironclads are in the back. Not a lot of models, to be honest. I mean, this is a pretty low model count army from KO here. But I give him first turn. To be honest, I kind of expected him just to run Gotrek up the middle, just to try to get it into my lines and kind of wait to see where everything's going to go. Because I can't, I can put a little bit of damage over there, but not a whole lot. And it would require me to really press forward into Gotrek's threat zone. So that's kind of what I thought would happen. Wait till those objectives come down and then make his move. But he was playing pretty aggressive and wanted to go ahead and make his move in turn 1 and try to pin me back, get rid of some of my bodies, and put some pressure on me. So he does end up dropping down over here and another boat in the far corner. And his first battle tactic was to broken ranks, to destroy those Source Warriors. Or Source Knights, sorry. So you see his guys coming down. He did put in the charge. I overwatched with this Bastiladon. And he put some shots into the Stegodon and from this boat, and put some shots over here from this Ironclad into the Warriors. But knowing that battle tactic for the Warriors, for the Knights, was what I really needed to prevent him from taking. I did all-out defense in both phases for the Knights, and surprisingly ended up keeping them alive through all of the shots that he had taken at him and the charges that he made with fighting with that boat. So I don't know if it was just bad. I figured they were going to get cleared by that big old giant boat, but I think my damage reduction really helped to keep him alive, and maybe some bad rolls. I don't know. I ended up with like one knight alive, maybe 2. But what that really helped, because whenever he leaves a model alive, whenever one of these are alive, now I have free reign to charge in Gotrek because he can't redeploy out when he's in combat. So I really needed to make sure I saved one of those knights so that he couldn't get out of the way of Gotrek. And that is what happened. Left one of the knights alive, and I was able to get Gotrek into his boat in my turn. I think I may have gotten Curse onto that boat as well and was able to take that boat out. I left the other boat on the far right side for the moment while I dealt with this one. I was going to try to get, I did get a summons here, trying to get those warriors over there just to block any of those models coming out. Unfortunately, he was able to drop a bunch of bombs on this Stegodon, who's already kind of injured from the previous turn, and ended up killing the Stegodon. So that was a little disappointing. I charged that Stegodon in and got killed by the bombs. Maybe I should have kept that one out, but then he would have just put the bombs on the Bastiladon, which would have hurt him too. So this Bastiladon was flying just to make sure I could get my battle tactic, which was destroy those bodies that were back in the back corner. I was able to shoot those off pretty easy. It may have come down to the last few wounds, but that was my battle tactic, and both Bastiladons were shooting over there while I was charging at this guy. So an easy battle tactic there, just killing off those 10 bodies. And now he's gonna kind of be hurting on bodies depending on where those objectives flow. I took these other knights, and I don't think you can see them here, but I just started hightailing them up this way on just a flanking maneuver. I'm going to try to stay away from Gotrek, and I'm just looking to get into his objective wherever his objective is going to pop up. If it's on this side, if it's on the left or middle, then maybe I'll be in a good spot. So, you got a 66% chance that it'll end up somewhere where I want it. There's I ended up using the Slon's ability to make things fly. Like there's a command point. You can make things fly and get +1 to their save and shooting, I believe. And so I was able to make a lot of monsters fly throughout this game, and that actually came in pretty clutch because some of this terrain I needed to get across. There were times where I was charging with the engine where I needed to get the engine across or Bastiladons, and so I ended up using it maybe 3 or 4 times where I needed something to fly to get onto places. Unfortunately, by the next turn, I think my Bastiladon was out of range for me to do that anymore. I can't remember what happened, or maybe I didn't have enough command points, and so he had to crawl down the hard way. So there we go. We got that Ironclad gone. His Gotrek gets the objective. The objective falls right on his Gotrek, basically at the top of 2, and he wins priority. He runs Gotrek just to get some extra distance, and this was probably a mistake on his part. Running him within 9 inches of my warriors, which allowed me to redeploy my warriors up onto the objective. And since his Gotrek ran to get extra distance, he wasn't able to charge. So I was able to get, 3 or 4 bodies onto the objective and keep him from actually capturing the objective in his turn, which kept him from getting, I think, the battle tactic and the VP points. So I think if he had just sat Gotrek still, he would have been safe. So in my turn, I just kind of circle up Gotrek, run my warriors over here. You can see my objective falls on this side, his objective falls on this side, and my Gotrek ended up killing his other Ironclad, which had come in on his turn and tried to hurt some stuff. So maybe it killed a Bastiladon. I don't see a Bastiladon there. Maybe his Ironclad came in and killed that Bastiladon, or left the Bastiladon alive long enough for Gotrek to get in there. So that is kind of how the game was wrapping up. I had control of all the objectives. I killed his 2 Ironclads, killed most of his bodies. He basically just had Gotrek left. Gotrek actually went into the engine, which I had some decent buffs on to give him pluses to his saves. He was near a terrain piece on my side, so he got a 6-up ward save. And he actually tanked Gotrek. He survived both of Gotrek's attacks. Now, I didn't do any damage back to Gotrek, but he survived both of Gotrek's attacks, which, hey, that's a win in my book right there for that fight. Obviously, my turn I got out. We sent in our Gotreks just to have fun on the last turn, and obviously they didn't really do much damage to each other. So overall, great game. And I think it came down to that pretty aggressive move and not killing off all the knights right there at the beginning, so that I kept his Ironclad tied down and could just easily kill it with Gotrek. So if those knights hadn't survived, he would have gotten his battle tactic, and he would have been able to probably redeploy out of the way of my Gotrek and keep his Ironclad alive. I don't know. Who knows? But a pretty aggressive move, and it just didn't quite pay out. So great game, James. Had a lot of fun. Hope to play again sometime. On to game 2. Game 2 was against Talon Frost, and great guy. He was from out of town, I think, and out of state. He may have been from Alabama, maybe. Correct me if I'm wrong. So he's playing Tzeentch, and he's got a lot of Chaos Demons. Well, if you know anything about a Bastiladon, we get some bonuses against Chaos Demons. And so when we got to the table, he's like, this is pretty much the list I was trying to avoid playing against all tournament. And so it was going to be a hard task because there was a lot of Thunderlizards, a lot of Bastiladons at this tournament. But he had Tzeentch, he had some Chaos Demons here with Kairos, Fate Weaver, a bunch of spells there, an Ogroid as his general with a bunch of things there that I don't know what they do. Hard-hitting analysis. He's got some blue scribes. I think those may summon in something. It gives him a pluses to his, or rerolls to his cast or something like that. I don't know. Change casters and Be'lakor, which Be'lakor is always rough for anybody who's playing Gotrek, because if you shut down Gotrek for a turn or two, depending on the turn priorities, you've lost a lot of ground. So I don't like seeing Be'lakor across from my Gotrek, because if you don't get those 4 or 10 inch move from Gotrek, then if he's stuck on your side of the board, he's pretty much out of the game. He also has 10 pink ores and another set of 10 pink ores, and then some screamers, and 3 endless spells there. He did have quite a few drops. He had a Warlord and Hunters of the Heartlands, so he had quite a few drops. So I got priority on him, and of course I gave him turn 1. We are playing Apex Predators, which you need a leader. This is going to be important here in a second. A leader to score these objectives and have to be within 3 inches of them. But we are in kind of a funny deployment here. So take that into consideration on our deployment here. You can see my little castle I've built here. And my heroes are inside the pyramid. And my Bastildons are flanking with Gotrek in the middle to run towards that objective. My engine is within range to grab this objective. And these screens will be moving up to help me grab those. I'm just going to basically ignore this one on the far left and hope for the best. So I give him first turn, and he moves up a little bit, but he's playing very cagey with his heroes. He really does not want his heroes to get shot, and it's kind of a catch-22 because he has to be able to score with his heroes, but if he gets these heroes who are all Chaos Demons up close, then my Bastildons are just going to have a heyday with him. So it's just a bad battle plan and just a bad situation for his heroes. Do you play aggressive and just hope for... I think you're just hoping just to keep from getting doubled and keep the priority going and maybe put some pressure on me. But his casts didn't really go all that well. He was getting a ton of summoning points, but he didn't really get out some of the critical casts. I think he may have miscast one of his heroes. No, he rerolled that. I may have stopped one of his endless spells on this first turn. Oh, no. Now I remember. He did get out the mirror. There it is. He got out the mirror and then insta-killed my Skink Priest, which turned into a Chaos Beast, maybe? Which then tied up this Bastildon and my Slon that was in the terrain piece. So that was pretty nice. Skink Priest is a great target to hit if you can hit it turn 1. So he did get that off. And so that kind of hurt. My ability to buff up my Bastildons, which is going to be my damage piece in this game, got hurt a little bit. So on his turn, he basically moves up. You can see I've done some shooting. All of his heroes were out of range in this turn, but at this point, I'm just trying to capture objectives. And here's where I run Gotrek up onto the objective, and he goes, Gotrek is not a leader. He's a hero, but not a leader. And it just the light bulb over my head. I knew that, of course. That's why I can fit him into my battalion. That's why you can do him like Hunters of the Heartlands. I just hadn't occurred to me that I can't score with Gotrek in this game. And so that's why you see I had to disembark my Slon from the pyramid. So the pyramid's basically useless the rest of the game. I was able to get him out 6 inches, which is just on the verge, but he's not within range to score that. So I'm not able to score that objective. And so that kind of hurt. It's just one of those moments where it's like, I know. But for some reason, it didn't click. So I'm only able to score this one. I did get my battle tactic and stuff, but his heroes are still pretty far back. He's got a couple small ones here. So I'm not too worried about him yet, as long as I can keep my screens going. I ended up shooting a bunch of pinks and busted them down to blues and brims. But other than that, not a whole lot happened. He got the turn on this one, and he brought out his these guys just into my units, just trying to cause some trouble there, tie me up, and make it harder on me. And he moved some stuff over to this left side to try to end up scoring this objective in the next couple turns, but still playing a little cagey with the Kairos as he's trying to stay out of range of the Bastildon. But Be'lakor, he's got to make a move with Be'lakor. And Be'lakor's coming over this way. And I redeployed these Knights just to create a better screen and to get them further out of range. So now I think it was a 9-inch charge, maybe a 10-inch charge after the redeploy. And Be'lakor ended up failing both of those. And so that was rough. Be'lakor's now out there in the open for my turn. And on my turn, he actually locked down this Bastildon here with the Dark Mastery. And it actually failed. It worked on all the phases except the shooting. In the shooting, he rolled I think it was a 2. So that Bastildon got to shoot. This one was, of course, also going to be shooting 2. But I was able to shoot off Be'lakor in that turn. I forgot to mention on the last turn. Let's see if I have a picture of it. When just a small mistake, probably he had piled in these guys a little bit into a little crevice here just to get more models into combat. Well, that brought my Slaanin into 3 inches. So then I was able to pile in my Slann onto the objective. And so that was pretty helpful in that I was able to get onto that to control it, just based on a pile-in. And so on my next turn, I was able to score the objective, but it got me onto that objective. So that was pretty nice. At that point, it's pretty much game over. I've got these 2 objectives held. He still hasn't scored an objective. I've been getting all my battle tactics in this one, and I've still got all my shooting alive. And so we're slowly working things down. I give him priority into 3 just so I can make sure and remove his objective that's over here. And then he's going to end up pushing Kairos in, and Kairos ends up getting shot off. And so his pinks, are kind of the workhorse of that army. And they really didn't have a purpose here in this game, because you have to have heroes that are leaders that are scoring these objectives. So, he tried to get him in to start blocking things up, but just didn't have enough time to do so. And so I was able to hold him off and hold on to these 2 objectives while shooting off his heroes. So good game, man. It was just one of those matchups that you hope, when you're list building, you hope you don't come up against that exact counter to your list. And in this case, I think he did. So still had a lot of fun. Great opponent. And so good times. Game 3, I'm playing against Jimmy Sides. And he is playing Mega Gargant, Sons of Behemoth. I can't ever say that word right. He's got a Kraken Eater, he's got a Gatebreaker, he's got another Kraken Eater, and a War Stompa. And so, of course, he's got the Amulet of Destiny on the Gatebreaker. And so the standard, 4 mega list here, it's a hard one. It's a hard one to bring down. Lots of damage here and some good strategies. Unfortunately, we're playing on Tectonic Interference. Man, what a terrible one to get matched up against Mega Gargants, because there's only 3 objectives. And he's got... if he gets on these and he starts kicking them around, it's going to make it really hard for me to play these. So, all he needs to do is, all I think he needs to do is hold 2 and just hang on to him long enough, and he can win the game. So here's our deployment. I do outdrop him. I'm 2 drops. I think he was 4, I guess, maybe. So I outdrop him. So I'm gonna give him the top of turn 1 to try to see if he will move up onto the objectives. Maybe give me a valid charge for Gotrek turn 1. That would be ideal. What I thought he would end up doing is taking 2 megas to one side and 2 megas to the other, and then just sit there and wait and see how long he can hold on to that. Because you can't take an objective from 2 megas until you kill them both off. So he could basically hold those for quite some time. But in his turn, I'm not exactly sure what his strategy was, but he was going for battle tactic of just ferocious advance, and he basically just shuffled these 3 guys together, running them. And I think just kind of playing the waiting game, seeing where I was going to play, and then countercharge wherever Gotrek wasn't. I think that was the plan. So wait till I see what my play with Gotrek was, which obviously it looks like I'm going to the middle, and then play, as far away from him as possible. You can see I'm pretty weak on this left side, and so he only put 1 mega over here. And I think his intent was just to crash all 3 of these onto this side, which I had a lot more force on. At least that's what I think the intent was. So after his turn, after he just kind of shuffled around, I ran Gotrek to the middle. I created a screens. And I put quite a bit of damage on this first mega with my Basildons and with some mortals. Was able to do a healthy amount of damage on him, to where I felt like if I got another turn, I could take that guy out with enough shooting. I did get the priority, and I was able to shoot off the rest of that Mega Gargant and put some other damage into one of the others. I got some summons just to give me some extra bodies and screens. And I moved Gotrek just up to the very front of this terrain piece, almost just kind of daring him to come closer to me. And if he's going to move anywhere over here, which I kind of assumed he would, I could redeploy closer to him. Wow, I'm drawing too much on that. That was my plan. this guy's so far back. I know he's going to get this objective, and I'm just going to try to focus on these two for the rest of the game. So that was my intent. Couldn't quite get these Bastildons up onto the objective on this turn. That's what I was kind of hoping for. Not like it would help if he decided to take it, but it would give me a couple extra bodies on there for whatever that's worth. Also lets me do some battle tactics and whatnot. In his turn, he does send in those 2 megas over onto my right flank here, and is able to take out those source warriors and the knights. I was able to I think he went so far I couldn't redeploy Gotrek, but I redeployed the warriors around my Stegodon. And that Stegodon was able to keep them in combat. He got the next turn though, and was able to easily take out that Stegodon. But that allowed me to end up getting Gotrek over to him, and that made it to where I got a really nice charge off Gotrek, and I got right in between both of those Mega Gargants. And at that point, I knew I was going to be in good shape. I charged up my Engine of the Gods, also sent him in. I gave him, the Constellation, gave him +1 to his attacks. I went Savage from Beastmaster, and I went Finest Hour. And so he was buffed up to the gills. I think I got Curse off on this giant too. And so now I'm shooting my Bastildons into these 2 Gargants, and then I'm charging this Engine who's buffed up, and I've got Gotrek going into him too. So I'm able to finish off the one on the left, and the one with the amulet was nearly dead and got him on the next turn. So a very successful turn there into those 2 Mega Gargants. Did quite a bit of damage, just combined fire, and that left the Mega Gargant over on that left side, who was coming in. He was coming in this way, but that left me with only 1 Mega Gargant. And if he leaves this objective, then I can claim it with a Bastildon. If he comes this way, then I'm going to be able to answer back with all my force. And that's what he ends up doing. That may be the last picture we had there. He ends up bringing this Mega Gargant up this way to do some battle tactics. And I'm able to answer back, not with Gotrek, but with my Engine and both Bastildons, and was able to take the last Mega Gargant out by the end of the game. So, great game there. Maybe a little too tentative on first turn, but it's hard. You don't want to get very close to Gotrek, that's for sure. Even Mega Gargants don't want to. But I was able to have basically 2 rounds of shooting while he was still at the back of the board. So that was helpful to whittle down 1 Mega Gargant before we ever had to get into combat. So. Great game, though, Jimmy. Hope you enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. So hope to play again next time. On to Game 4. Game 4 was against Marco Hernandez. You might know him from the Ever Chosen podcast. I've played him, man, it's been a while back. He was also playing Ironjaws back then. I think he's been playing Ironjaws for a long time. Quite good with them, and Ironjaws are quite good now. So he is playing Ironjaws with Blood Tooths, which is, you can see, it is a quite powerful sub-faction of Ironjaws, and it's winning some tournaments, and it's up at the top with some 5-0s and 4-1s. And Marco is a very good player, so he played it well. He does have that Mega Boss on Maw Crusher, and with the Amulet of Destiny, which just makes that thing so incredibly hard to kill. It's got a 3-up save, lots of ways to get it lower than that, and it's still got that Amulet of Destiny, and it'll be like adding wounds to itself if it kills things. It's just a very tough piece to kill. He's got the Mega Boss, a couple 3 War Chanters, and then he's got 12 Gore Grunt Hackas, or Gore Gruntas with the Gore Hackas. The big pigs. He's got 12 pigs. These things have a lot of beef in them, and they're fast, and they're going to hit hard. He's also got 10 Orc Brutes and some Rippa's Snarl Fangs, which is that warband, which kind of lets you do some goofy pile-ins and has some good range and stuff. He does have a 7 drops, quite a few drops, so I'm able to out-drop him. We are playing Survival of the Fittest, so there's only 3 objectives, which is, I like that, but I know that if I take the turn and push forward to the objectives, I can't risk getting double turned by Ironjaws, because if you get double turned by Ironjaws, it's game over. There's nothing you could do. There's no amount of screens that will let you survive that. So I have to make him go first. Otherwise, it's over. The one good thing is that my defender's territory is it's so big. I include so much terrain in my territory that a lot of that has, deadly for him and mystical for me. So that is really nice. That allows me to play a little bit wider with my buffs. So you see deployment here. I put one screen out all the way on this side with nothing really behind it. I'm trying not to give them any great options to go after. I put my pyramid up too far to where I can't actually get into it because it's too close to deployment, but it's still in my territory, so that's nice. But so I can't get in it now. I'm just really using it as a blocking piece. And I put Gotrek right next to it to claim that objective, but also to keep him from just hitting the middle of my army. So I know he's not going to come straight at Gotrek, so he's either going to just destroy a screen, which got nothing behind it, or I gave him a nice little juicy target over here, a Stegodon. And this wasn't the only time I did this. I did this a couple times in the tournament. Basically offered up the Stegodon. Stay out of my middle here. Here's a Stegodon for you. Maybe that's not the best thing. It gives him a VP. It can give him a battle tactic, but it keeps him out of my middle of my army. And to be honest, the Stegodon really didn't. In this list, it was kind of the weakest piece I had all tournament. Maybe it's because I was offering it a sacrifice. I don't know, but he did take that. I hesitate to call it bait because Marco's not. He's not a dumb player. He's not taking a bait that you're offering him. But it is the best target I think he had for his Maw Crusher. But if I can get the Maw Crusher over there, then maybe I can answer back on my turn and kill some stuff and not worry about this giant flank of pigs coming down at me yet. This objective is completely lost to me. There's no way I'm going to ever take that thing. I'm going to try to hold this one and this one. One of the bad parts of low drops is that they get to put their units where they want in accordance with how you've deployed. So they get to see how you deploy and then counter deploy with you. So that is one bad thing. So he has all his beef a lot of beef on that left side, and I have some stuff on the right, but that's where his Maw Crusher's coming. So he does send the Maw Crusher over there to that right side. He makes a good move there. He brings these pigs in, and I don't have any good pictures for a little bit, so we're just going to draw on this one. He brings the pigs in here, and it was whoever moves first. The pigs or the Maw Crusher was going to be my redeploy. Either I'm redeploying the Stegodon back, or I'm redeploying Gotrek forward. And if I could have gotten a high roll with Gotrek, I would have jumped out in front of those pigs because they were over far enough. But pigs moved first, so I redeployed with Gotrek and only got it was like a 2-inch redeploy. So I moved out far. It's not bad. It's good enough range. Every inch with Gotrek matters. But I wish I'd gotten a little bit further. But that means that the Stegodon is for sure going to die because he's just going to move outside of 3 of that and grab that Stegodon. So let's see what the next picture is. We cleared off a lot of stuff here. Let's go back to this picture for a second. So he does kill off the Stegodon. And pigs come in, almost kill off these knights, but not quite, which is again awesome. These knights have been there for me when I needed them to. It was like 1, maybe 2 stayed alive. I can't remember how many on this one. But what that does is that locks those pigs down to where now Gotrek can move without the fear of redeploy and can easily make the charge to kill off those pigs. So a knight staying alive to hold you down so you can't redeploy is pretty big. Obviously, he killed my Stegodon, but I've got to play aggressive. It's like if he gets the next turn, I can't kill off his Maw Crusher this turn because on my turn he did Finest Hour on Maw Crusher. I think he thought I was going to just bring everything over to Maw Crusher, so he did Finest Hour on Maw Crusher. So he's going to be at minimum +2 to his saves on that Maw Crusher. And it's already got a 3-up save and amulet. I can't kill it this turn. And so what I do is I'm playing for the double turn. I fly my engine over here, and then I just kind of box him in. And then if I get the double turn, I'm going to curse him and then charge him. And so that, I know there's a lot of things that have to happen to make this work. I'll get Finest Hour. I'll get Savage on him. I'll do the constellations to +1 attacks. I'm going to buff this Engine of the Gods up as much as I can. Maybe send in Gotrek. Shoot everything I've got at him. And hopefully we can take that Maw Crusher down. So in this turn, I still kind of pop off a couple shots. There's a lot of sight blocking terrain. Like this thing was blocking stuff off. This thing was blocking stuff off. My Pyramid was blocking these pigs from this Bastiladon. So I didn't have a lot of good shots. So I did end up having to take a couple in the Maw Crusher. Didn't really do much. So there's the end of that turn for me. You can see I've lost quite a bit. I was able to shoot off these pigs that were attacking over on this side. So now all he's got left, and I was able to kill off these pigs. All he's got left is a big block of 6 pigs that have yet to enter the battle, but they'll end up coming up this way. I do get the double turn, and I make some key charges. If I had moved Gotrek any closer to this Maw Crusher, he would have redeployed, and so I couldn't risk it. I got Curse off on Maw Crusher because this terrain piece was in my territory, so I got +1 on my prayer. So I got Curse off. I got all my buffs on the Engine. He's going hard. He's got Finest Hour. And so I end up moving Gotrek over this way and make a long bomb charge on those Orc, whatever those guys are. Because I knew if I didn't do that, if I moved Gotrek over this way, he's just going to redeploy back. And these guys will end up coming in on his turn and just wiping me out. So Gotrek makes the long bomb charge over there. My Engine's here. I shoot all my Bastiladons. We've got Curse on him. We shoot, three activations of Bastiladons. Engine of the Gods goes into him. Impact charges. All this kind of stuff. Everything I can possibly throw at this Maw Crusher. And he survives. On I think it was maybe 5 wounds. It was just making all those saves. The horns on the Stegodon. So I'm at +1. I think it was like 2s and 2s, and 6s do mortals. But I rolled all 1s or something. It was 1 made it through, but then didn't wound or something. It was rough, and I only have -1 rend. So I'm not getting through his after save. I was unsuccessful on the roar, I think, and so he was able to use all-out defense. So I just could not get enough attacks through, and so his Maw Crusher survived. So I lost my battle tactic, which was bringing him down. I didn't, kill that monster. I didn't score this objective because he was still within 6 of it, so he was still claiming it. So that one thing where that Maw Crusher just stayed. I had everything into it, and I just could not kill him. And so that was rough. I think that's right there was where I lost the game, unfortunately, was not being able to kill that Maw Crusher with everything I had. Gotrek did. He had to. There's that activation there. Gotrek actually took a lot of wounds from this guy. I took a picture before all their attacks were done. They have these 2-inch weapons, so they're all able to pile an attack. And I failed just about every single save I made with Gotrek and most of my ward saves. And so he was down to 1 wound left. That's after I healed him. He went down to 1 wound. He easily slapped back and killed these guys, which was good. Got rid of those bodies. I only had 1 wound left in Marco's turn. I tried to heal him back up. He only healed 1 wound back up. And then Marco brought in the... I don't know if we had a picture of it or not. No, that was about it. So he brought in his... Let's go back to this picture here. He ended up getting in his Mega Boss into Gotrek that was up here. And just absolutely just threw a ton of dice. Somehow he had a ton of dice coming from that guy. And I all I had to do was fail 1 ward save, and he was gone. So at that point, he brought in these pigs into the middle, and we actually had a pretty good fight there in the middle. Yeah, they're in the middle. At that point, I had a Bastiladon here in the middle, but I had the Bastiladon at I think I had a Mystic Shield on him. I had +1 to save from the Priest, and something else. I had all-out defense, I guess, on the Bastiladon as well. Maybe that was it. And so I was +3 to save, and so the pigs just weren't doing any damage. They may have snuck a few through, and then in my next turn, I was able to heal it up. So that Bastiladon actually stayed alive for quite some time, was able to shoot off all but 3 of those pigs. I think 3 survived and ended up pulling out of combat. And so then it was just down to who can get the most battle tactics. So by the end of the game, I had basically killed just about everything except his Maw Crusher and a couple, his support heroes and just a couple pigs from that group. I still had my Bastildons alive, but I didn't have enough points. I didn't have enough battle tactics scored in this game. Just couldn't quite punch it through after I failed on the Maw Crusher. And so a great game. It was a lot of fun. Some great moments here and there. There was one point where I rolled Comet's Call and had a chance to pop off some, heroes, the little War Chanters, which really weren't doing much. They're giving +1 to damage, and, I reduced everything by 1 damage anyway, so it didn't really matter too much. But I didn't quite get the number. I wanted to roll above a 10, so I had my reroll. I decided to reroll, and then I miscast. That happened more than once this tournament. That happened twice this tournament. I went for the reroll to get a higher number and miscast. Most of the time it did pretty well for me, the rerolls, but there were a couple miscasts. So it was a heck of a lot of fun. It's always fun to play Marco and his Ironjaws. Ironjaws are tough. They're gonna get into you turn 1 for sure. And so I was happy I brought the screens I did. I might want one more unit of Knights in my next list just to have some extra screens, because Ironjaws are going to be popular. You have to be able to take that charge turn 1 and be able to answer back, because it's rough. It's rough. So good game, Marco. Look forward to seeing you at the next one. All right, game 5. I'm playing against Trevor, and we've never played against each other. I've seen him around at all the tournaments, but never gotten a matchup against him. And he plays Nighthaunt. Let's take a look at his list real quick. Got I think, kind of the standard cast of Nighthaunt heroes there with Lady Olander, the Craven King, the Cruciator, which gives that 5-up ward save bubble, and some of these other guys, which I'm not sure what all they do, but they all have a purpose there in the army. We had 40 Chain Rasps and 15 Hex Wraiths in this list. Woo! Those Hex Wraiths. Those things are fast, and, they can do some mortals on the moves and stuff. Black Coach, and then an Endless Spell. He did have a couple different battalions there and quite a few drops, and so I did get the priority here. We are playing Savage Gain, which has 4 objectives. You score 1 for your side, 2 for the ones in the middle, and 4 if you can capture theirs. So here's our deployment, and I knew I was getting him turn 1, and I probably should have played this a little bit better, because I really did not have enough models on this objective here. And he is going to play aggressive and just come in here and try to weather my stuff and see if he can keep enough models on there to win my objective here. I should have lined up this engine just like an inch closer to be on that objective, so that I would have had 10, maybe in total about 20 models. It would have made him a little bit harder, but as it was, I think he needed 15 if he didn't kill any of my stuff onto the objective to score it. And so he's got a ton of bodies, and he's going to try for a pretty aggressive play. I did put my Stegodon over here as part of a screen, but also just trying to get something. He had that big block of 30 in Chain Rasps in the grave or underworlds or wherever they are. I don't know, off the board. And I just kind of wanted them to come into this just to save me the headache of having 30 of these things into my line. So I'm offering up a juicy target over here with that Stegodon, and he takes that target there. And it's not a bad play. It's a monster. It's a take it down. It's worth quite a bit of points. So go for it. Maybe I should stop offering up the Stegodon. I don't know. But I do give him turn 1, and he plays very, very aggressive. He's bringing all these Hex Wraiths, these 10 Hex Wraiths, just straight into my lines. I think he had kind of forgotten that there's a Go Trek right here. When he made the play, I thought, I figured the Hex Wraiths had a lot of attacks. Maybe he was just trying to get up as many attacks into Go Trek early on as possible. Maybe he thought he could do it. I think once we talked about it, he just kind of forgot that this was a Go Trek and was just looking to play aggressive onto that objective to try to steal it. So he does bring the Black Coach, all the Hex Wraiths, basically all his support heroes up a little bit, grabs this objective, and sends the horde of 30 chain rasps over onto that Stegodon. And so there he is, charge. Once he moved within range, I redeployed Gotrek just to get Gotrek further. And it was at that point where, he's just, poor Trevor. I said, okay, I'm going to redeploy Gotrek. And at that point, it clicked. Oh, crap. That is Gotrek right there on his objective. And you saw him start questioning his life. So maybe he should have not attacked, but I'm going to get into his Hex Race on the next turn. So you might as well try to do as much damage to Gotrek as he can and see if he can take him off. I didn't get very far as like a 1 or 2 inch deployment with Gotrek. I just wasn't getting my good deployments with Gotrek, but it's enough. Although I am giving him a beautiful little area to surround Gotrek with. You can see his 30 chain rasps are coming in on that side. And he actually makes the charges. Let's go back to this. He makes a 10-up charge from the Hex Race and a 10-up charge from these guys. And so he's getting to activate both of them in the charge phase. And he puts most of the attacks into Gotrek, just trying to get his, he's got 2 shots at it now. All these attacks pile into Gotrek. What can he do? Unfortunately, just the dice absolutely did not go in his favor, and he got 1 wound through. And I don't even think it was the wound to Gotrek that he got through. I think he got 1 wound from these guys over here onto the Source Knights. Just absolutely terrible on that charge activation fight. And so I was able to, wow, this picture jumps very far ahead. These guys did make the charge. They get into this Stegodon, and they get to attack in the charge phase, and then they get to attack in the combat phase. And surprisingly, they don't kill that Stegodon. The Stegodon survives on like 4 wounds. I was shocked that they survived that, but he did well. The Stegodon was able to attack back in this turn, and then also attack back in my turn, and was able to kill quite a few of them. He ended up bringing the Stegodon down, but I was happy being able to clear out. I think of those 30, I think by the time it was all said and done, I had killed out 20, 21 of them maybe. And so I had killed off quite a few of them, and I was happy with that. I could clean up the rest of them later. Gotrek obviously killed off the Hex Race. They attacked again and got some damage through, but just not quite enough. Again, 1 knight survived against that black coach that also came in, which was just incredible. And so I was able to pin his black coach down. I made a big charge over here with Gotrek. Killed the all I had to make was a 3-inch charge for the black coach, but I made a big one. Was able to kill the black coach, and then I was able to keep the Craven King within 3 inches, and then get into these heroes with Gotrek for his second activation. And so anytime you get those kind of crazy movements with Gotrek, it's worth taking right there. So that was pretty awesome to be able to kill off the black coach and Craven King with Gotrek in that turn, and was able to shoot off most of his other Hex Race over here and do a little bit of damage over here, but not too much. I wasn't too worried about those guys coming back. In his turn, he was able to bring some of them back, but they weren't too much of a threat the rest of the game. I did get the double, which is just like, I think I got the double. Let me check on that real quick. No, I did not. I did not get the double on this one. He got the turn, but there wasn't really a whole lot he could do. He brought these guys back over here and captured this objective. He was able to bring 2d6 back, which was a pretty good spell, and he got it off. Unfortunately, he had to retreat these guys out, but in doing so, he couldn't get one outside of 9. And so once he moved the last one out, I was able to redeploy Gotrek and just get closer to his heroes. So that's critical because now I don't have to move Gotrek on the next turn. I can just make this, I think it was like a 5-inch charge. I can just make the charge. And so anytime you don't have to move Gotrek, because you don't want people redeploying, that is critical. Because now I can just charge him without having to move him, and they don't get to redeploy. So redeploy tricks are always a heck of a lot of fun. That's one thing that keeps Gotrek playable, I think, is redeploy. To be honest, redeploy and making good charges. You always got to have that, I guess. But he wasn't really able to do too much. He was just trying to hold on to objectives. Oleander tried to pop off a bunch of mortals in a big bubble, but just really didn't do much. And so he was kind of struggling there. At this point, I think it was already on a uphill battle for him, losing most of his bodies and a couple of his key heroes. So on my turn, I was able to basically just clean up the rest of the board. So Gotrek made a charge over here to this guy, piled in around the backside, killed him off, and then was within 3 to take out that guy. And then I just shot off basically everybody else. Left these guys alone. I think I may have put some shots into them on this turn. Actually, I did. I put enough shots into them that my Bastiladon, who was running and shooting on this objective, we got them down to 4. So I was able to capture that objective, which is just crazy. And so at that point, it was definitely over, and tabled him by the next turn. So scored a pretty massive amount of points on that one because I was able to hold all 4 objectives pretty much the rest of that game from turn 3 on, and get all the battle tactics that I had left over. So pretty good. I mean, it was a great game for Gotrek. I think it just came down to, game 5. I think Trevor was getting a little tired and just made a pretty critical error there, charging Hexwraiths at Gotrek. I think Hexwraiths had a pretty good shot at doing a lot of damage to Gotrek, but just none of it got through. Was able to all out defense Gotrek and stuff and make the rolls and survive. So a good game there for Seraphon. Definitely a good game for Gotrek as he was able to take out quite a bit, and the Bastiladons did what they did what they do. And so let's maybe do some wrap up here. So looking back at my list, would I take the same one again? I think so. I really felt like it was a pretty well balanced list. I had 4 monsters. I had Gotrek, who is just a power piece wherever he is on the board. I had a Salon with reroll spells +2 to cast, so he's able to kind of control the magic phase for me as well as project some mortals. And my Bastiladons were able to really project a lot of threat range with their shots. The Knights were fantastic screens. I think I have to give my MVP to Gotrek for just solely based on the last game and killing the 2 Ironclads, killing the 2 Megas. I mean, he had a lot of kills. But I think that combination of powerful magic, powerful shooting, and Gotrek, along with some decent screens, it really lets you play kind of in every phase. And so I like that. I think probably the weakest portion of the army was actually the Stegodon this game. Because I just really didn't have anything I could really buff him with. I was using all my buffs on the Bastiladons. I was using all my command points on other things, so I really couldn't effectively buff up that Stegodon. I think what I might do is maybe bring in another screen unit of Knights, maybe another like a Starseer or a Skink Star Priest to really help buff up those Knights so they could actually do a little bit more damage. Yeah, I think maybe the Stegodon was actually the weakest part just of this list. Now, you all know I love my Stegodon, so I'm not shelving Stegodons, but for this specific list, he just wasn't quite the power piece I needed him to be. But everything else performed great. Ended up 4-1, which is fantastic. I was really happy with that. Came close to beating Marco. Just couldn't quite kill off that Maw Crusher in my second turn. But overall, man, had a ton of fun. So, yeah, great tournament. Check back tomorrow. I'm gonna go over some of all the Seraphon lists and take a look at the ones that did well. And we're gonna look at all of them. So come back tomorrow and we'll take a look at those lists. But yeah, had a lot of fun. We'll catch you guys next time. See ya.